How would you feel if you found out that the government were lying to you for your own good? What if they lied to you about your entire childhood? Welcome to Untangled Philosophy. Today, we're exploring the ethics of lying in Plato's dialogue, The Republic. In particular, we're looking at Plato's concept of the noble lie, the idea that under certain conditions, rulers are justified in lying to their citizens for the good of society. In Plato's Republic, Socrates paints a curious picture. He presents what he calls a noble lie, a story told to the inhabitants of a community to harbour acceptance of their assigned roles and a sense of loyalty and unity. According to the myth, each person is born with a type of metal mixed into their soul by God, which determines their role in life. Those mixed with gold are destined to rule, those with silver are the guardians or the soldiers, and those with iron or copper are the producers, the farmers, artisans, and so on. People would be told that they were formed within the earth of the country. Any memories that they have of childhood that would seem to contradict this idea would be explained away as a sort of dream world that they were put in during this process of underground gestation. The noble lie arises in the context of Socrates and his interlocutor of the dialogue, Glaucon, imagining an ideal society. They envision three classes: the rulers, guardians, and the producers. The noble lie reinforces this social structure, fostering a belief that everyone is family, born of the same mother, the soil of the city, and nurturing a sense of loyalty so strong that one will protect the society and each other at all costs. This is an odd picture, but to soften the apparent arbitrariness of this, I want to add two quick things before we get into the ethics of lying. Firstly, Socrates expresses reluctance and even embarrassment at proposing this idea. He is not proudly advocating a malicious propaganda campaign. His motivation is to do what is best for the community. And secondly, keep in mind, foundation myths were not uncommon in the ancient world. For example, Rome's story of Romulus and Remus, which served a similar purpose in uniting its people. So, what does Plato think about lying in general? In the Republic, Socrates makes an important distinction between two types of lie: spoken lies and pure lies. I keep saying Plato and then Socrates, don't get confused. The Republic is written by Plato, but it's from the perspective of Socrates. Now, scholars debate all the time about to what extent the views in the Republic are Plato's or the historical Socrates, but we're not going to get into that right now. According to Socrates, lies, in particular those about, quote, the most important things, are loathed by everyone.
No one is at all happy about being lied to and deceived in his mind about the facts.
But he points out that the problem isn't just speaking a falsehood, it is the
state of misapprehension caused by falsehood in the mind.
That is, it's believing a falsehood in one's mind, which he calls a pure lie or a lie in the soul. A spoken lie is literally a lie that you speak. Spoken lies merely reflect what's in someone's mind, but a pure lie distorts your view of reality. It affects your character and behaviour and your understanding of the truth. Someone could go about lying all day, but it's not particularly a problem if no one believes them. It is the potential for falsehoods to be accepted as true that makes lying so despised, according to Socrates. Okay, fine. Nobody likes a pure lie. But aren't there spoken lies that are told for good reasons? What about lying to a friend who is not in their right mind to prevent them from hurting themselves or others? Wouldn't this be a good lie? Socrates and Glaucon appear to agree, with Socrates likening helpful lies to preventative medicine. What Socrates argues next is really interesting. Just how the administering of medicine ought to be entrusted only to doctors to help patients, so the telling of helpful lies ought only to be enunciated by the rulers to protect the city. The rulers, he says,
and lie for the good of the community when either an external or an internal threat makes it necessary.
Ordinary citizens, on the other hand, should have nothing to do with lying. Now, it's important to remember that the discussion thus far is within the context of forging out a just community, and what really concerns Socrates at this point in the dialogue is whether God lies, and more importantly, whether we ought to tell our children stories which depict the gods as lying. Socrates' chief concern is inculcating positive values as part of a child's education. Stories, poetry, and plays that seemingly promote lying are detrimental to this project. Thus, such passages ought to be censored, even those contained within Homer, whose poetry was so highly regarded in ancient Greek society as to be considered almost holy. Why then should lying be discouraged in society? Why is it so pernicious for you or I to tell a lie? Plato believes that lies from ordinary citizens could undermine the stability of the community. Rulers are justified in lying if it is necessary for the city's good, but citizens lying to rulers, well, that would be outrageous. It would be like a sailor misleading his captain about the condition of a ship, thereby endangering everyone on board. Whether this means that ordinary citizens ought not to lie in private as well as public seems to me unclear. Socrates' statement that no one other than the rulers should have anything to do with lying seems absolute and could imply a general prohibition. However, the main focus of the text seems to be on avoiding lies told by the ruled to the rulers because of their potential to threaten the city's stability. If any ordinary citizens are caught lying in our community, Socrates says,
he is to be punished on the grounds that he is introducing a practice which is just as liable to wreck and ruin a community as a ship.
But what about, as we said earlier, lying to a maddened friend to prevent them doing something stupid? These lies were said to be helpful, so it may be that such lying in private matters is still permitted. However, we might be meant to conclude that even this would be wrong. Such lies may foster a culture which normalizes lying, therefore increasing the likelihood of pernicious lies being told to the rulers. This idea of Plato's, and he appears to be the first to espouse it, that a government is justified in lying to its citizens for their own well-being, is a position known as paternalism. And this would become a relatively standard view in political philosophy. But it's interesting to me that Plato does not entertain the idea that lying could be absolutely wrong, or even that this could be a reasonable ethical position to take. He feels no need to defend himself against this charge. It's just obvious to Plato that successful leadership requires some form of deception towards its subjects. It wasn't until 4th century Augustine that a major philosopher would seriously defend the argument that lying is always wrong. This may at first seem stringent, but what Augustine says is actually fascinating and extremely well considered. Both paternalism and Augustine's absolutism will be covered in future videos in this series on lying. Plato contributes to the history of the ethics of lying, with his distinction between spoken lies and pure lies, his acknowledgement of beneficial lies in both public and private matters, and he's the first to argue in favour of paternalism. Ultimately, Plato believes that the morality of lying depends entirely on the city's good. Rulers may lie to protect the community, but citizens lying to rulers has the potential to threaten the city's good, and so is wrong. But lying is not inherently wrong. Its acceptability depends on what your class is. What do you think about Plato's myth of the noble lie? Is lying to children really the best way to form an ideal society? Don't forget to subscribe for more philosophical discussions and videos on the ethics of lying. Thank you for watching. See you next time.